Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to meet you. My name is Peter May, and I'm the Associate Director of Admission for SCAD. I've been working at SCAD for around 10 years, but I also was an art student, like many of you may be destined to be. I studied painting and printmaking in my undergraduate studies, so I've been through this process. And I'm connecting to you today from SCAD Atlanta, which you can see behind me. I work from the Atlanta campus, but as you'll see in my presentation, we actually have other locations as well. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and start my presentations. At the end of the presentation, I'll be sure to share my contact information. So if you have any follow-up questions, I'm happy to share that with you. So let me just share my screen and get started. Hold on one second. Started on the wrong screen. Okay, here we go. So I'd like to just go ahead and start. So SCAD was founded in 1978. So we're now 42 years old. We were founded in Savannah, Georgia. But since then, we've grown. And in addition to our campus there in Savannah, we have the campus where I work in Atlanta, as well as a small campus in Lacoste, France, which is in the south of France near to Marseille, as well as, of course, our flagship campus in Savannah, as well as e-learning program, which we've been doing for many years, even before the pandemic struck. We were already offering classes through e-learning. Since we were founded, we've been growing and growing every year, and at this point, we have 15,000 students across these campuses, really from all 50 states and all around the world, including many students that are coming to us from Canada. We have more art and design majors and minors than really almost any other art and design university in the US. We have more than 40 majors and around 75 minors. And I do encourage you to take a moment to just look at the list, because in addition to some majors that you may have heard about before that are very popular, things like graphic design, fashion, painting, photography, and so on that are traditional, we have a lot of new and innovative majors. And the reason why we have so many new and innovative majors is because we're constantly responding to industry and what they are looking for in their creative workers. So just to highlight a few, we've added, for example, recently immersive reality, which you can see kind of in the center of your screen over towards the right in yellow writing. Immersive reality is designing VR experiences, virtual reality experiences. And that's a major that we added recently because industry was telling us that they needed that as they needed creative people in that field. So I did want to just highlight that we are always sort of adding to and slightly changing our programs in result to industry. Like I said, with more than 40 majors and 75 minors, which you can complete in a 4 years of study, we really have a lot of programs. The other thing that I really want to highlight is that we're very proud of is that we have a 99% employment rate. 99% of our students who graduated in 2019 within 1 year of their study had been working or they'd gone on to further higher study. And of those, 91% were working in their field of study, which is something that we're a little bit obsessed with. We're very focused not just on giving you an outstanding education and some new talent and skills along the way, but also for making sure that this investment of your time, of your money to come and study with us is worthwhile, so that you can make sure to get some good quality and lucrative jobs in a creative field in your future. So a lot of my presentation going forward will be talking really about how we get to that 99%. But just to start you off with some examples, here's an example from recently. Christopher John Robbins, who's in the center there, was a fashion major who graduated recently. And he formed together a company along with several of his classmates even some that came in from other majors like dramatic writing, fashion marketing and management, and industrial design. And they launched a fashion line that has gone on to become quite successful. In fact, recently they've dressed good designed outfits to dress Michelle Obama and Rihanna. I just saw a picture today. I don't even have a picture for my presentation yet on it, where they dressed a congresswoman from New York named Alexandria Ocasio, and she is one of the famous congresswomen from New York, and he recently came up with an outfit for her. But there's lots of other stories, including a lot that I can share with you. Andrew Siebert studied user experience design and went on to work at Google. India Hayes actually studied graphic design and illustration, so she did a minor in illustration, and she went on to work for CNN International. So here's some examples of her work that you might have seen. And then Eric Dunshee, he was really interested, I get a lot of students that come to me and they're interested in another field, like let's say they're interested in science as well as art, and they're a little bit nervous about starting with art. Eric was one of those students. He was really interested in motorcycles and how they work, and he thought about becoming a mechanic or an engineer that could help create motorcycle engines, but he also had that creative side, and he loved to draw motorcycles. And when he came to us, he studied industrial design. At the time it was product design, and did a lot of concept drawings of motorcycles. And he went on to become the chief designer for Honda motorcycles. So he was able to combine those passions. So this is just one path that you can take if you have that interest in science and engineering as well as the creative side. Valeria Roja from Colombia was a photography major, and she has gone on to do freelance photography and even did the cover of Taylor Swift's album, Lover. And on and on. Now, I show you some companies here that are some pretty big name, fancy companies that everybody's heard of. And I don't mean to share this because this is the only path for you, but I do want you to understand, especially if there's any parents listening, that if you study art and design, you're not going to necessarily be a starving artist. And the reason is that companies, even big companies like this, are putting a lot of resources into their creative wings. So it's not just the engineers on the back end that do the coding to make their services and their websites work and their products to be well designed and so on. They're also really interested in those creative people who are able to design that experience as their customers interacting with their products. So these are just some of the examples of where students are working, but I could give you a lot of other examples. So one of the things that's special about SCAD is we try to keep our class sizes very small. So the average studio class that you have at SCAD will have around 12 to 14 students in it. So you have a lot of one-on-one time with your professors at SCAD. And the professors that you work with are also industry professionals. So they're able, again, getting back to that 99% that we're so proud of, your professors are actually connected to the industries that they're teaching in. So for example, Professor Moore here is also on the board at Estee Lauder. So she's able to obviously give you insight into how that industry works. Professor Gallagher, who's the chair of our animation department, you've seen his work. He's done recent projects for Electronic Arts, ImageWorks, and is even animated for Disney. So of course, if you're in that class and there's 12 to 14 students and he's your teacher, which he may very well be, imagine the insight that you'll get having a Disney animator be your professor. And there's a lot of other examples. I mean, some of the names you might not recognize, like Steve Geisbuehler, but you've definitely seen his work from our graphic design department. He actually designed the logos for NBC, Time Warner, and Telemundo. Now, SCAD has won many awards. Lulu highlighted one of them early on in our interior design program, but we've also won awards recently in the business of fashion, Again, Design Intelligence awarded us #1 for interior design in the US, as well as our motion media program, which is like motion graphics. We've won #1 for that recently as well from the rookies. Now, if you're a fine artist like me, again, like I said, I studied painting. There's also opportunity for you not to be a starving artist and to be quite successful enjoying that 99%. And one of the ways that we do that is through a program called SCAD Art Sales. Through SCAD Art Sales, you're able to contribute your work to the permanent collection of SCAD, and then we actually have a devoted office that negotiates contracts with outside entities to use your work, to buy your work. So for example, let's say a metro station's opening up in San Francisco and they're looking for public art to include in the station. If they choose your work, you're going to get that commission. Another thing that we do, which I think is really cool, is that in addition to having the typical kind of open studio night where you get a chance to show off your work to the public, our SCAD faculty will also show their work alongside yours. And just like other fields of study, the faculty in the painting department are industry professionals, so they're well connected to galleries and have collectors and so on. So if you're a fine artist like me, you get to show your work alongside faculty, and obviously when those collectors start to come, they might notice your work as well as it giving it some legitimacy to be on display next to the faculty. Just advance the slide here. So currently at SCAD, we have several ways to learn. We do have our traditional on-the-ground classes as well as e-learning, which I've mentioned. And then recently, because of the pandemic, we've added real live virtual instruction. So these are synchronous classes where you still get that face-to-face time and time with classmates, interaction with classmates and happening at specific times each day. But you also are able to do it safely and remotely as needed. We are slowly starting to open up as the numbers have been getting a little bit better in Georgia in spite of what's going on in the US in general, but we're taking it really slow during the pandemic. I do want to say that we have these different locations. And one of the things that's really unique about SCAD is that because we have these locations, once you're accepted to the school, you're accepted to all of the locations. So for example, you could start your study in Atlanta, transfer to Lacoste. Like I said, that's in France. All the classes are in English, so you don't have to learn French if you don't know it. And then transfer back to Savannah, which is a beautiful city along the coast of Georgia, and take classes there as well. Or if you wanted to, you could stay in Canada and do e-learning as well. Now, I do want to just highlight how the application process works if you are interested to applying to us. Unlike some other schools, we actually have a rolling admission, and we do not have a early admission category. So basically, you can apply anytime. It's not too early to apply now. For example, for fall 2021, you could start apply now to start classes in September next year. I actually just before this meeting sent out a congratulations letter to a student that just got accepted for next fall. So again, it's not too early. We also don't have a deadline, so you can wait and apply later as you get ready. The application process is really simple. You can apply directly on our website, or you can apply through Common App, whatever's easier for you. And the first step is really completing the application form on our website or through Common App and submitting that along with an application fee, which is $60 for us. Once you submit that, you'll be connected with an admission advisor. If you're a Canadian citizen, it will be me. So you're actually meeting your admission advisor right now, and you'll get an email from me. And then I will then sort of hold your hand and take you step by step through the remainder of the process. So the first step, of course, will be sending your transcripts from school. And also, I can give you the instructions at that point on submitting your portfolio and other materials that will help you to be considered not just for admission, but also for scholarship purposes. Now, at SCAD, we do not require any standardized tests. If you're applying from outside the US, you do not need to submit an SAT or ACT score. We also don't require a TOEFL or IELTS if English is your second language. Because we have a full ESL program. And to be honest, if you've attended high school in Canada from 9th grade onwards, you'll be automatically exempted from any kind of ESL requirement anyway. So there's no standardized tests. It's really just a matter of applying your resume, your transcripts, your portfolio, and your resume, and I can give you instructions during the application process as to what to include to that. But like I said, you don't have to have anything ready when you start the process. If you have the opportunity, I do encourage you to visit us. You can visit in person. We have resumed in-person tours of campus in small numbers, so we're limiting those to just a few people on each tour. But if you're not ready for that, which is totally fine, you can also do a virtual tour online on our website. And then finally, I encourage you to connect with us. So by connecting with us, I mean connecting with us by social media. I mean going to our website and signing up the interest form, which will allow us to get your email address and keep in touch with you about some of the really exciting virtual events that are happening recently. This week, for example, we have a great film festival where you have the chance to participate in virtual meetings where you can meet and ask questions to famous directors and actors and producers and cinematographers and screenwriters and so on from the film and TV industry. So please do connect with us so that we can keep in touch and share this information with you, because even if you don't end up coming to SCAD, there's a lot of really interesting activities that you can participate in, which may help with your professional career as an aspiring creative person. So I did want to just start to slow down and end with one more picture, which is one that I always like to end with. These are just a few examples of some smiling, happy faces from our class of 2020. Normally, when I would do this presentation, I would show you a picture of a great big room, ballroom with thousands of students hugging and crying and so excited and throwing their hats in the air as they graduated. Obviously, we couldn't do that in 2020. So what we did is we asked students to send pictures of wherever they were in the world as they were completing their studies and graduating. And we got back a few of them, which I'm sharing with you now. And I wanted to share them with you because these are the faces of that 99%. These are students that are going off to launch these awesome creative careers in which they're completely passionate. And just like you, at one point, they were sitting there watching a presentation, hearing all about our programs, wondering if it was the right step to take the step to go to an art school versus another kind of school. And they did make that choice. And I just want to share that they have all been quite successful, and we keep on hearing wonderful stories about how happy they are in their careers. So I do encourage you to consider a creative career. I encourage you to consider SCAD as well as some of the other wonderful schools that are featured in this event. And I do encourage you to go far. And in the meantime, please keep in touch. I'll end as a last screen. Here's my email address. Again, my name is Peter May, and I'm happy to talk with any of you if you have any follow-up questions following the presentation, if you think of something later on. But I also have a little bit of time, I think, for questions now, if anyone has any questions, or if Lulu, you have any questions for me that you'd like for me to address.
Yes, so thank you so much for the presentation, Mr. May. And yes, so right now is our Q&A session. So if you do have a question, please raise your hand or just leave your question in the chat and I can read it out loud to Mr. May. Yeah, we do have a lot of attendees right now, and hopefully you all can learn something from the from SCAD today.
While you're thinking about questions, I'd be happy to just talk about a few things that I didn't touch on in my presentation, but I'd like to share with you. There's often questions about scholarships. Obviously, studying in the US at a private institution is very expensive no matter where you go. It's just the way that our system is set up. And I hopefully communicated the value of that investment, that you will hopefully get a great job that you're really happy with and it's lucrative and so on. But in terms of scholarships, I wanted to share that at SCAD, we can automatically review you for scholarships based. First one is based on your academic history, so your grades from school previous to applying to us. You'll be automatically reviewed for that, whether or not you ask for it. The second one is what we call an achievement scholarship, and that's based on your portfolio and also on what we call a resume. And I mentioned it very briefly during my presentation, but a resume is a list of your outside of class achievements and activity, things like volunteer work, cool projects that you've done, student groups that you've been involved with, church groups, sports, musical instruments, those kinds of things. So make sure you have a well-rounded life, and that can actually help you with a scholarship at SCAD.
And does it apply to international students as well?
Absolutely. So yeah, and at SCAD, we don't really distinguish between international students and domestic students in terms of tuition or financial aid or anything. I mean, obviously, the US citizens are able to get some federal aid that international students aren't eligible for. That comes from the government. But other than that, there's not really a difference at all in terms of your experience. And we'll, of course, help you with the entire process for the visa and making sure that you can get to us and stay and even work in the US after you graduate.
All right, I haven't seen any questions yet. And since they all have your contact information, so if you do have any questions after our info week, you can also contact Peter May. Thank you.